Today we're going over 10 behavior hacks to make a good first impression. All right, you ready, sweet tea?
I'm ready, man.
All right, man, it's Sunday, and we have some really good ones today. I'm hoping the audience likes this one because this is really meant for each single person that watches this channel. So I want to be clear that this is not covered by my board-certified behavior analyst credential because it's not all evidence-based. Some of it is, but most of it is not. The one part that is evidence-based is that anytime you're trying to change behavior, you need to be likable or at least approachable. You need to be a reinforcer, basically. So your presence has to be reinforcing. And the way to do that is pairing reinforcement with yourself and wherever it is the person really enjoys. So by looking at that thumbnail and that title, don't think that you have to impress everyone around you, and you need to be you. Always be you. Sweet money Till, let's do this, man. Okay, behavior hack number 1 to make a good first impression. Tell me in the comment section if you've had this happen to you. You're at a party, you're at a social event, someplace where you're supposed to mingle, could be a family event, could be a bar, wherever, and you're talking to someone, and as you're talking to them and you're going back and forth, their eyes keep looking around in the party or in the social event to see who else is there. When that person does that to you, you're gonna feel like they're not paying attention to you. Like they just can't wait to find the next person to talk to, or that what you have to say is not important. So my behavior hack is keep your eyes focused on the person you're speaking with. It's really important because if you're at a social event and you're mingling and I'm talking to you, it would be like me doing this, like, oh, who else is better around that I can talk to? It's not a good feeling, and you know what I mean. Oh, sweet tea, I want you to see the new mug I just got in the mail. My good friend Matt Sikoria from Behavioral Observations podcast. Love it. It's awesome. Thank you, Matt. Behavior hack number 2 to make a good first impression. Your handshake. It's real. I know it seems silly, but I interview at least 20 people per week in these panel interviews. And the first impression is when they shake your hand, if they're kind of like a wet noodle, or if they do that thing where they shake your hand and then they go up and down like really rapidly, it almost like freaks me out. So I just think you have a normal handshake, 1 or 2 times up and down, and that's it. So in the 80s, when we were listening to Electric Boogaloo, someone would shake my hand and we'd do this, do this, do this. That kind of is embarrassing, but good. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something also really embarrassing, sweet tea. In 1985, I was in a breakdancing group called ESR, the Electrostatic Rockers. We used to really rock the house. Do this, do this. The ESR, Electrostatic Rockers, we used to get down in the St. Mary's parking lot against the Skyboys. Okay, behavior hack number 3 to make a good impression, sweet tea. So it's really important to keep your hands within view and your posture, because going back, way back in the day, this is just my inference, and there is a little bit of anthropological, historical evidence of this, but not in the behavior analytic literature. Make sure you keep your hands, everything above board so that the people can see it. If you put them in their pockets, we have a 200,000 year evolutionary history on this earth as human beings, as hominids, or cavemen, or whatever the hell we were. But it was over 200,000 years modern human beings were on this earth. We were on the Serengeti Plains, we were under constant threats wherever we were. We were in the Kenyan Rift Valley, that I learned. Any stranger or anyone who would be around us, when they would approach us, if they had their hands in their pockets or their hands hidden or somewhere, it would be a threat. So it's almost natural for us to wonder what they're doing with their hands. Did you ever get pulled over by a cop, sweet tea?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I never have. But, lie. When you get pulled over by a police officer, if you haven't noticed, if you don't put your hands on the steering wheel, they get really freaked out. They might even reach down. So it's really important that they're just ready for threats constantly, and they're trained for that. So just make sure your hands are visible, because we have a natural reaction that's impulsive to be a little bit weirded out by someone who does not have their hands in view. That's important to make someone feel comfortable.
I always ask before I grab my ID out of my glove box. I go, can I grab it out of my glove box?
Yeah.
Because the last thing I need is them thinking I'm going for something.
Good. Sweet tea, that was an awesome hack you just gave me offline, which was if you do get pulled over by the police, ask permission to reach for the glove box. Behavior hack number 4 to make a good first impression. Make the person feel comfortable by just, again, having that open stance. Palms out, hands out. Don't cross your arms, because crossing your arms appears as though your hands are half hidden. You look like you might know it all. And it's just important that you keep a very open stance. So again, for 200,000 years on this earth, if other human beings were around us with kind of a closed-off stance, they look like they're protecting something or they could be hiding something. It's important to know that you don't invade people's personal space. So it might depend on the culture. Here in the United States, or depending on where you are, a good safe 3 to 4 feet distance when you're speaking to someone standing up or when you're seated is important, because if you get really too close, it's going to be like that old Seinfeld episode, The Close Talker. Okay, number 5, how to make a good first impression. A lot goes on in the mouth area, so you want to be careful that if you're not smiling, which you should as much as possible, that you're not covering your mouth, because the more you cover your mouth, the more people have a natural tendency to feel as though you're hiding something. Like in our previous video, we talked about the woman that killed her children. She had kind of a smile and a smirk, which they call duping delight, which often can indicate someone's being less than honest. So just be very natural. Make sure you don't cover your mouth too much, because it tends to make people feel a little bit uncomfortable because they're wondering what you're doing under there. Okay, number 6. This one I can't stress enough. It's really just about be honest. When you first meet people, it's amazing how quickly people can sniff out if you're not being transparent, if you're kind of flexing on stuff that's not really you. So just be yourself. People can quickly kind of sort out, especially females, because I like to say they have a better intuition. I like to say a kind of a longer antenna to sense out things that are disingenuous and creepy. I've learned that from my daughter. She can catch on the vibes and the micro expressions of people that maybe aren't right. As soon as you start trying to appear as though you're something different than what you are, people are going to be very sensitive to that, and they're just not going to trust you. Many people that are younger, I can't say I didn't do it myself when I was younger, but sometimes people try to appear as though they're like fake rich or fake wealthy or affluent. They might end up spending more money on their sneakers than their car, and they may not even have a house to live in. People will sense that out, and it doesn't make them feel safe, and it doesn't make them feel comfortable. I like to say that, you know, after I've built relationships with people, and I know that my family is this way too, we often call it the rope of trust. So each time you have an interaction with someone and you make a promise and you deliver on it, that person makes a promise to you and they deliver on it, and then back and forth you make promises and you deliver. What happens is you'll get that rope of trust. People will know really quickly if that rope is unraveling. So what's cool about what I like to think of as the rope of trust, this is just in my head, man, it's like not in the research anywhere, but it's nice to think of the people that you're around, that there's actually a physical, tangible thing that can occur. Each time someone makes a promise and delivers, it builds that rope. And what I love thinking about is that rope of trust, and the people around me that I surround myself with, including family and employees, is that if something unusual occurs and I can't deliver on a promise, or that person can't deliver on a promise, it's not like the rope broke altogether. It might just get a little bit frayed. So in other words, it might unravel a little bit. But once you've built that kind of like relationship trust equity in the bank through this really strong rope, it's not really easy to undo, which is great. Number 7, to make a good first impression, set boundaries right off in the beginning when you meet with someone. When you first meet someone, sometimes people do some unusual things, like they'll throw out something just to test you to see what your position is on something. The person in front of you, it could be a friend or a guy that I meet somewhere at a bar, or it could be a guy that I meet at a social event or like an ABA conference, and they could be just trying to have small talk conversation, but they may say something like, yo, that girl, in some kind of misogynistic, inappropriate term. I always let them know right away, knock it off around me. I just make sure I'm clear that I have a daughter, I have a fiance, I have a mother, I have a sister. It's really important to treat people with respect regardless of gender. And I think that you'll attract people closer around you if you're just really honest about taking a position when things are inappropriate. Set boundaries. Number 8, I know it sounds cliche, but really actively listen. What I mean by that is when you're in front of someone, you're giving eye contact and you're not looking around and you're actually focusing and you're having a great interaction, make sure you don't just all of a sudden have all your alerts on your phone and then you pop it up and look at it, you look at your iWatch text, or if you just look at your watch to see what time it is, people are going to feel as though they're not important to you, that you have something better to do. So for the minimal moments that someone's right in front of you, give them your all, or just don't meet with them at all. I turn off all of my notifications, my email, my phone, the Facebook, everything, LinkedIn, even though I love LinkedIn. It's important to just make sure that you're giving that person all your attention. Along with active listening, just nod your head, paraphrase, say things back to them to make sure that they were understood and that they feel understood. It's very important. Number 9, behavior hack to make a good impression. Once you learn their name, make sure you use it. I mean, don't be like a salesperson and say, yeah, John, that's great, John. Don't overuse it, but make sure that you use the person's name. I mean, there are some studies out there showing that the one thing that people want to hear the most is their own name. And there are actually some neurological studies that show there's an impact on the brain when someone's name is said. I think it has something to do with the cocktail effect. So you could be in a room and there could be a lot going on, but if you're having a conversation and someone says your name over here, and then it grabs your attention. So there also is some evidence out there that when someone says your name, you have an involuntary response where it's very difficult to not pay attention. And number 10, last but not least, probably the most important thing is actually a principle discussed in Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Behavior hack number 10, talk about them, listen to them. In addition to active listening, there really is nothing more important than that person wanting to express themselves and being heard. I mean, truly listen to people, figure out what they care about. Don't be disingenuous, be honest and be forthright and really listen to what moves them, what is inspiring to them. After many, many meetings with a person, you can start to see what they care about, which is really awesome because then you can help inspire and motivate them further. But truly, people like to talk about themselves. So take a genuine interest in them, not a fake interest, take a genuine interest in what they have to say by listening. So they were my top 10 behavior hacks on how to make a good first impression. Thank you so much for listening and thank you so much.